There are basically three mistakes that professionals and business owners are doing when they have forgetfulness and memory loss. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you, first of all, what's really going on when you have memory loss and forgetfulness that is actually severe, like where you actually really feel that there's something wrong with your brain. And I want to show you what kind of mistakes you are doing so you can avoid them and that you have a bigger chance in the future to get your goal or to achieve your goal of actually having a better memory and having a sharper mind and getting basically your brain back. So what's happening for a lot of people that are working, that are hardworking, that have high stress, of course you can forget some things, okay? In your everyday life, of course you can forget your keys sometimes, or you can forget what you said to somebody, or you can maybe forget an appointment. Like this is something that's actually not something severe. But when some of these things are happening more and more, and basically when you feel in your brain that you just don't remember things so good anymore, like you've been talking to somebody and then a couple minutes later you're like, what did I even talk with him about? And I don't even know what I talked with him about. And all of these things, like when you're continuously forgetting your keys, when you're always asking questions, when you forget to put things on your grocery list, or when you forget your grocery list, or when you also want to buy stuff and then you just forget what you want to buy actually. You forget what you told about your employees or your chef, or your boss, not your chef, so about or your boss. So there are things that are actually reoccurring, not the things that just happen here and there. The actual memory loss and forgetfulness that is just reoccurring and that is basically concerning for you, where you first like really think about, okay, I never had these problems actually, but now it really feels weird because there's really a problem with my brain. And then you actually even think about things like Alzheimer's or dementia. I can tell you it's probably not that bad, because that would also other people in your environment or in your vicinity, family members, they would actually realize that even more if you like forget these things really, like if it's that severe. But you actually know when you have severe memory loss or when you have more forgetfulness that you used to have. So also you could forget birthdays that you would always have in your mind that you would never forget in your life, but now you're forgetting these things, and it just shows you that there's something wrong in your brain. But what is actually wrong in your brain? What's happening when you have memory loss and forgetfulness, and what are the mistakes of that? So what's really going on is that your brain and your neurons, they store memories. And if there's something going on in your brain, specifically also with the neurotransmitter chemicals, then you can have a problem. And what's really interfering with the energy, with the electrical impulses, with your neurons and with your neurotransmitters, specifically when it comes to memory loss and forgetfulness, is toxic heavy metals. Toxic heavy metals in your brain, they can oxidize and they can go into adjacent brain tissue and cause memory loss there. And that's the biggest culprit when it comes to memory loss. When you have really severe diseases like Alzheimer's or dementia, the amount of toxic heavy metals are just a lot. They're just way more than when you have just a little bit of memory loss and forgetfulness, which is still troublesome and which is still something I would be concerned about as well, because it actually can get worse. So if you don't do anything about that, it's possible that your memory, that your forgetfulness gets worse, and that you actually can't do your job anymore how you used to be. Maybe even gonna lose your job. So you never know what's going on if you actually don't care about that, if you don't take care of that. This is something that's really important to understand. And for some people, it's also only the short-term memory or only the long-term memory. And this is also where doctors are surprised, because some people, they remember everything from their past. They remember everything in detail, where they went on vacation, where they met their partner for the first time, where they had their first soccer game, like everything from the past. They remember these things, but the short-term memory, they don't remember that at all. And What's happening there is that it depends where the heavy metals in your brain are sitting. Usually it's mercury and aluminum, a combination of that is causing memory loss and forgetfulness. And it depends where these metals are sitting in your brain. If they're sitting in an area of your brain where long-term memory is stored, if there's more oxidation there from the heavy metals that are interfering with the neurons and neurotransmitter chemicals, then you actually have a problem with your long-term memory and your brain is not able to store the long-term memory anymore. And the same thing is happening when the brain is exposed, like when the side of the brain that is storing short-term memory is exposed to more heavy metals as well. So it could be that you actually have bad short-term memory, but a good long-term. You could also have a good short-term, but a bad long-term memory. And this is where doctors are actually confused and they don't really understand why this is actually going on. Maybe you even went to your doctor already, maybe you even tried a lot of things, but you couldn't even figure out what's going on. Like, why do you forget these things? And that's actually what's going on when you have memory and forgetfulness. And the mistakes that a lot of professionals and business owners are doing is they're on caffeine. Caffeine is a big one when it comes to your brain. Like, caffeine is neurotoxic itself. Caffeine burns out basically your brain cells. Caffeine prompts your adrenals to release lots of adrenaline, and that adrenaline is also can in and of itself destroy brain cells, diminish neurotransmitter chemicals, which is leading to even more memory loss. And the adrenaline and the caffeine in your brain is creating more heat in your brain. And if you have more heat in your brain, that's causing the metals to oxidize more and to melt. So you have more alloys of mercury and aluminum in your brain, and the memory loss gets worse because the particles of the heavy metals get into adjacent brain tissue even more. So caffeine is a big one for that. And I know it's not easy to live without caffeine. I know that you maybe even need to have caffeine every day in order to function, but avoiding caffeine is one of the most important things that you need to do in order to get your brain and your memory back. It's actually one of the 5 most dangerous ingredients for or foods for brain health. It's even worse than alcohol when it comes to your brain. That's how bad caffeine actually is, and a lot of people don't know that, and it's a psychoactive drug. We have to name it like this. It's a psychoactive drug, and caffeine is actually really bad for your brain. And the less caffeine you consume, the better it is, definitely for your brain. Then a lot of professionals and business owners, they're also not eating constantly throughout the day. That's another thing. So you're in high stress, you forget even sometimes you eat, you forget to hydrate. That means not enough nutrients are getting into your brain, and therefore you can't really restore your nerve cells, you can't provide the right mineral salts and the glucose to your brain in order to feed your nerve cells and in order to battle the heavy metals in your brain. Because the more heavy metals in your brain, the more mineral salts your brain actually needs to battle that. And if you don't get the mineral salts from your food, and if you don't eat regularly, and if you don't have a stable blood sugar, that creates even more adrenaline in your body, because the adrenals try to compensate for the blood sugar drops that are happening when you don't eat. So eating regularly and eating the right kind of foods is actually super critical in order to restore your brain health. And on top of that, almost everybody nowadays is on high-fat, high-protein diets, and what that means is if you're on a high-fat diet, your bloodstream is filled with fats. When your bloodstream is filled with fats, there's less oxygen in there, and the viscosity of your blood is also not as good as it used to be or as it should be. First of all, your adrenals also pump out again. The adrenals play a big role in our health. Pump out again adrenaline to thin out the blood because there's too much fat in the blood, and in order to reduce the strain on the heart, the adrenals make sure that the blood gets thinned out a little bit, that the strain on the heart is not that big, because too much fat in the bloodstream is actually also bad for your heart. That's why your adrenals are doing it. But the adrenal is also corrosive for your brain again. It's similar to consuming caffeine. Caffeine is a little bit worse than that, but that's also what's happening when you have a high-fat diet. And if you have that, you can cleanse. You can't cleanse your brain if you're on a high-fat, high-protein diet. That's actually what's going on. And that's what everybody is doing out there, and that's why everybody is getting more brain diseases, because we don't know how to cleanse heavy metals from our brains. And it's okay that nobody told you, or that you don't know that right now, that you're not doing it, because people actually don't know it and people don't talk about it. And it's okay to get help for that actually as well, to get rid of the metals in your brain, because that's actually the very thing that you need to do in order to heal the memory loss and the forgetfulness, which is also one of the symptoms that people have when they have brain fog. Some people with memory loss and forgetfulness also have the symptoms of, they know what they want to say, but they can't get the words out, they feel drunk, they feel absent, they feel like they're not partaking in life anymore, everything is mentally exhausting. These symptoms can also happen when you have heavy metals in your brain. So actually the solution for that is to cleanse the metals from your brain. And if you need help for that, I offer everybody a free discovery call. All that you need to do is to go to my website, www.theobergmann.com, and there you can book your free discovery call. We will give you a call for 10 to 15 minutes to figure out if and how I can help you. And then we would move on to a strategy call, also for free, for 90 minutes, where we would show you an approach, a strategy on how you can get rid of your memory loss, your brain fog, your forgetfulness, in order to get your brain back, in order to be able to work for the rest of your life. Or not for the rest of your life, of course, you want to retire sooner or later, but in order to make sure that you are able to work and that you can use your brain how you used to use it. Because that's actually quite dangerous if you don't do anything about that. If you don't do anything about that, if you still stick to the lifestyle that you have right now, if you don't get rid of the metals, you accumulate more heavy metals. You accumulate more, because we are constantly exposed to heavy metals. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. You can reduce the toxic load of heavy metals with some lifestyle changes, of course, because there are lots of toxic products that have heavy metals. But in general, if you don't get the metals out of your brain, then we have a problem, because it can only get worse actually. You don't do anything about that, your neurons, your neurotransmitter chemicals, they diminish even more and more, and it can actually even set the stage for Alzheimer and dementia. So I would highly recommend you to do something about that, book that call, and link is in the description, Theo Bergmann, www.theobergmann.com, link is in the description. Book your free discovery call, and then we can figure out if and how I can help you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos, and subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.